Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. We're about to get started. Si alguien necesita traducción simultánea en español, por favor, háganoslo saber. Tenemos audífonos para que ustedes puedan escuchar y participar en español también. Vamos a empezar ya, así es que muchas gracias. Tomen asiento y bienvenidos.
Am I on? Okay, good. Thank you, Gustavo. Thank you for sharing that we do have translators here. And I also want to point out very early on before I forget, when we start engaging and I ask you to start sharing your thoughts, please know that the platform that we're using this evening, there's a drop-down menu and you can submit your thoughts in English or in Spanish, whatever language you feel more comfortable in. So, bienvenidos a todos. Welcome everybody to Jefferson Silva High School. It's my honor and my pleasure to be here with you this evening. My name is Diana Saavedra, and I'm the proud superintendent of the El Paso Independent School District. And like I said, I thank you so much for being here with me this evening to engage in a conversation about our hopes and dreams for the future of this school district and for the education of our children. One of the ways that I like to begin these conversations is by saying that our schools are the greatest investment. Our children and our schools are the greatest investment that we can make as a community. And it should be a priority. And so when I think about being the leader of such an awesome school district and thinking about what the future might look like and developing a plan to really get us to where we want to be, I can't create that plan alone. That is a plan where we have to come together as a community and we have to collectively have a conversation about what we want this district to look like in the future, sound like in the future, be like in the future. And so I need your help, and that is why we've come together today to engage in this conversation. Because if I create the plan by myself, then it's my plan. But if we create the plan together, then it's our plan, and it's something that we can all commit to. And so that's what we will start doing this evening with this Hopes and Dreams conversation. Before we get started, I want to share with you a couple of things. First off, I want to introduce our board president, Mr. Al Velarde, who represents this district. Let's give him a round of applause. You know, I'll tell you that although our board members are elected officials, they're volunteers because everything that they do, they don't get paid for, and they spend countless and countless of hours aside from their job, making decisions, reading materials, and really investing time in creating a school district, helping me work to create the school district that we all want. So again, round of applause for Mr. Velarde because it's a lot of hard work to be a board member. So let me tell you a little bit about the format that we're going to follow this evening. There's a bunch of you that are sitting at tables here that are with me, and there's a number of you that are in the gallery, and there's many of you who are watching and listening via live stream. Well, I'm here to share with you that all three groups will have an opportunity to engage in this conversation in terms of the way that we've set up the protocol. All you'll need to be able to engage and participate is either your phone, a tablet, and if you don't have one and you need one, and you're sitting at one of these tables, we're more than happy to get you one, or a laptop. And I see that some of you have brought your laptop. And when we get to the point where you're going to be using your technology, if you have any difficulty, just raise your hand, and we will have somebody come out and help you. All right? So you can participate with a phone, with a tablet, or with a laptop if you're sitting here at the tables with me. If you're in the gallery, all you need is your phone, and you'll be able to participate. And those of you who are listening and watching from home, if whatever technology you have at your disposal, you will also be able to engage. So what is this thing that we call hopes and dreams? Well, I want to start by sharing a couple of terms because it's really going to set the stage for how we want to be thinking about the future. So I want to define two terms for you first as we're thinking about what's possible in El Paso ISD when we look ahead. So what is the concept of this word hope? The word hope really refers to a feeling or a belief that something is possible. So I want you to be thinking about the word hope as we're having this conversation, because we all have a firm belief about what we know is possible for our children and for the future of the school district. Second term, let's think about the word dream. The definition of the word dream is something that you've wanted for a very long time. And I know that we all have things that we want for our children and for their future success. So when we engage in this conversation, I really want you to be thinking about this from the perspective of hope and from the perspective of dreams. All right? So, what is this thing called? Why hopes and dreams framework? Why are we approaching it in this way? And I think I mentioned that in some of my opening remarks. If I develop a plan in isolation about what I think is best for the future of the students in this school district and this community, then that's my plan. But this process is going to help us vision as a community. So I call this a community-based visioning process, where we come together and we have discussions about what we want for our children, what we want for their education collectively together. Because not only do we need to vision, but we all play a part and have a responsibility in the education of our children. So we'll develop the plan together, but we'll also commit to that plan together and what it's going to take to execute that plan. You can hold me accountable to execute the plan once it's built, but we all have a collective responsibility when we think about educating our children, all right? So as we think about visioning as a community, I want you, and we have this conversation, there's some things that we're going to be able to draw from what we do this evening. As we go through this conversation and you share with me what we think and what we know and what we want in terms of what's possible for the future of this school district, we'll begin to determine what the priorities of the community are. And I'm doing these sessions at all 10 feeder patterns. This is feeder pattern number 9. My last one is going to be on Monday at the El Paso High School feeder pattern. So this is my 9th session engaging the community in this hopes and dreams conversation. And from these conversations, like I said, we're going to be able to determine what the priorities of the community are. Some of those priorities will be common across the school district, but we're doing this by feeder pattern because there may be some unique things that we need to think about and differentiate when we think about each feeder pattern, right? Then what will we do once we know what the priorities of the community are? Once I know what you want and what you're thinking about in terms of the future and the education of your children, I'll be able to take that information back to the board so that we can collectively work together on what I call directional documents. And that means a mission. Why do we exist as an organization? Vision. What do we hope our district will become? Core beliefs and commitments. What do we value as an organization in terms of the education of our children? And then goals and a strategic plan that we can draw from for the next 5 years. This is the beginning of the work for us to get to that place. You also see the term learner profiles there, because when we think about the education of our children, we have to be thinking about more than just preparing them academically. Because for children to succeed in the future, they have to have more attributes than just brains, right? They have to have people skills. They have to be able to communicate. They have to be able to, navigate and adapt. And so what are the attributes, aside from being academically prepared, that we want our children to have when they graduate from any school in El Paso ISD? So we'll also work on developing a learner profile so that we're making sure that our organization nurtures those attributes and our students graduate with more than just being academically prepared. All right, so why did I ask for there to be a set of stakeholders to engage with me, aside from the gallery and aside from those of you who are listening at home? Well, there were two reasons. First one, to engage in this conversation, I needed to guarantee attendance. And I didn't want to leave attendance to chance. So I asked the principals to do two things. I asked them, every principal in this feeder pattern, to identify some stakeholders that I needed them to get here tonight. Those are the stakeholders that are sitting at the tables. Again, primary reason to guarantee attendance. Because if we just open it up to everyone, then it's by chance, because maybe some people will show up, maybe they won't, right? So I wanted to guarantee attendance, number one. Secondly, the second thing I asked the principals to do is I just need you to show up and listen and learn. Because as a superintendent, in the first 100 days of my tenure here, that's what I'm doing. I'm listening and I'm learning so that I can understand the reality of where we are as a school district, and I'm engaging in this conversation with you so we can start talking about what we want the future to look like, all right? Now, that conversation requires more than just one group of people, right? So when we think about the hopes and dreams and what we want and what we think is possible for our school district, we need to be thinking about what are the hopes and dreams for the students for their future. So students, what are your hopes and dreams for your future? That's why you're here, because your voice is important in this conversation. And it's important to me as a superintendent, because at the end of the day, you're the end user. You're why we exist. We are here to serve you. So your voice, of anyone else's, is the most important in this conversation. All right? Parents, what are the hopes and dreams that you have for your children and their education? That's why you have a seat at the table. Educators, why did you become an educator? Because you have hopes and dreams for your students. You have a seat at the table because you're a critical part of the educational process for our children. Community members, what are the hopes and dreams that you have for your neighborhoods, for the community of El Paso as a whole? You have a seat at the table, because we all know that our neighborhoods live and die by the quality of our schools. And what we do in schools supports the economic development of our community as a whole. So you have a seat at the table. The other reason you have a seat at the table is because when we think about educating our children, we can't do it all in the 7.5 hours during the day here in the school building. We've got to understand what assets we have out there, and we have to leverage those community assets to support the educational process of our children, because it takes more to educate our children than what we can do in the classroom and in the walls of a school building. So that's why you're here. All right? So again, what we're doing as we engage in this process is thoughtful, intentional, and strategic. There's a reason why we have a cross-section of stakeholders, because each one of us, like I said, has a part in this equation that we call education and the future that we want for our children. All right, so how are we going to do this evening? We're going to use what I call the thought exchange platform. That's where our technology is going to come into play. And again, I want to assure you that if you are more comfortable communicating in Spanish, you can engage in using this platform, because you can submit all of your thoughts in Spanish. If you're in the gallery and you have a phone, you can submit your thoughts in English or in Spanish. Everybody who's sitting here at the table, you have technology at your disposal to do the same. And those of you who are sitting and listening at home, you can do that as well. So how does this platform work? I'm going to ask you 2 open-ended questions in just a few minutes. And what you're going to do is, when I ask the first question, you're going to go into your computer and you're going to type in your thoughts. And everybody's thoughts are going to be generated in the system. You're going to be able to see your thoughts, and you're going to be able to see everyone else's thoughts. Then, as you're scrolling through and you're reading everyone else's thoughts, you're going to rate those thoughts on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 meaning being, yeah, I read that thought, but I don't really agree with it. Or, yeah, but I don't think that's really important for us to think about right now. So maybe you don't agree with that, or it doesn't resonate with you. On the other end, if you rate something a 5, that means, yeah, that is exactly what I want to see. That's something that I agree with. That's something that's important for us to be thinking about when we think about the future of this school district. So you're going to generate thoughts, you're going to read the thoughts, and you're going to rate the thoughts, okay? It's a very easy to use web format. I'll show you how to get in just a minute. And it's anonymous. So you don't have to worry about they're going to be able to find out if I put a negative comment in there. No, it's anonymous. I can't track who typed what comment, nor does it really matter to me at this point because, again, I'm here to listen and to learn. So this is the exchange platform that we're going to use, and we'll go through 2 thought exchanges. That was a tongue twister. Through 2 thought exchanges this evening. All right. So, as I said, as the superintendent, I started on January the 4th, and I've been engaged in listening and learning for the past few months. I've met with several community members. I've visited schools. I've met with teachers. I've met with administrators. I've met with community organizations. When I visit schools, I don't just walk through the hallways. I walk through the hall, I go into classrooms, I introduce myself to the teacher, I ask questions, I engage with the students. The students have a lot to tell me when I ask them questions. They have a lot to share with me. So I'm in those classrooms and I'm visiting the school, right? And so as I've visited with all these different stakeholders and I've listened to students, I already know several things about the school district. And I already know that there are several challenges that we will have to overcome. So I want to put those out there right from the get-go. I know as a superintendent coming into El Paso ISD that a big challenge that I have together with the board is to restore the faith of this community in the school district. I know that is absolutely priority number 1. So I know that already. I know that we've lost credibility with community and that we need to restore it. Secondly, I've been looking at the data, and over the last 10 years, we've lost significant amounts of enrollment in our school district to the tune of over $200 million of revenue over 10 years. So I know that a challenge that we have is to stabilize enrollment and reverse that decline. So that's another challenge that I know that we're going to need to work on. We are the oldest school district in the county of El Paso. We've been in existence for over 140 years, and the average age of our facilities is 50 years old. So we have work to do in terms of modernizing our facilities. You're sitting in a facility that's just been modernized from the last bond referendum that we passed in 2016, I believe. And so this is what we call a modern learning space, modernized facility. But there's not facilities like this one all across El Paso. There are schools that fall into that 50-year range, and we're trying to educate our students for the future in learning spaces that look very different from this space here. All right, so if we want to prepare our students for the future and have them compete, we have to educate them in modern learning spaces. And so that is something that we're going to have to tackle That's a long-term goal, and that's something that we're going to need to work on in terms of modernizing our facilities. And then, as I've talked with students, as I've talked with teachers, and especially talking to parents, we have a high emphasis in our school district on high-stakes testing or high-stakes assessment. You know, I understand that we have an A through F system and that the state holds us accountable for meeting that expectation. But that is a minimum expectation. And if all of the practices that we have drive us towards chasing the star, then we're shortchanging our children. They need more than to be able to pass a STAR exam. That will not adequately prepare them for the future that they're going to walk into. It will not. So we really need to work on de-emphasizing those high-stakes tests. I tell people this. The A through F accountability, if I ask two questions, if I ask to whom and for what are you accountable? In terms of the A through F system, that question is to whom are you accountable with the A through F system? The state. For what? Passing the STAR exam. Passing a minimum expectation assessment. If I ask to whom and for what are you accountable when I think about a system that we collectively commit to in terms of the evidence that we'll accept that our students are making progress, then to whom am I accountable? You. For what? For what we determine is what we want for our children and how we're going to gather evidence that we're making progress in that direction. Two very different conversations, right? So I already know these things. We have a lot of work to do in those areas. So what did I do to set the stage for this evening? I sent out a pre-listening question to the community. Again, wanting to be thoughtful, intentional, and strategic. It was important for me to send out a pre-listening session question for two reasons. Number one, I wanted the community to get acclimated to the Thought Exchange platform. And number two, I wanted some information about what conversations should we be having and what things do I need to know as a superintendent. So that is the question that I sent out at the beginning of the month on April the 4th. And as of today, how many responses do we have, Gustavo? Close to 1,800 responses that we have from the community to that one open-ended question. All right? And these are the topics that are bubbling to the top when we look at that pre-listening session question. Employee salary and employee compensation is something that's weighing heavy on everyone's mind. Class size is something else that seems to be an issue for our teachers as well. Curriculum and assessment. Again, I talked about a lot of assessment, not enough instruction, right? So we need to be addressing curriculum and assessment so that we're being smarter about gathering evidence of student learning, but we have high quality instruction across classrooms in El Paso ISD. Safety and discipline is something that has come up as well. People are very concerned about the social emotional needs of our students. They've been through a lot of trauma. Behavior, teachers are asking for more support to manage, behavior. And, our parents want to make sure that when they send their kids to school, they're not going to be bullied, by students. So those are issues. College readiness. Everybody talks about the fact that we want our kids to be prepared for whatever they want to do in the future, whether they want to go to college, whether they want to secure an industry certification, whatever it is that they want to do, we want them to be prepared so that any door of opportunity that they knock on, it's open to them, they can walk through it, and they can be successful, maximizing their strengths. Food and nutrition. If our children are hungry, they're not ready to learn. And we've had a lot of comments about our food and nutrition and whether our lines are too long, whether kids have enough time to eat, and whether the meals that they're served are meals that they can truly enjoy, or whether they go hungry because they'd rather not eat then, eat the food that they have a choice with. So food and nutrition is something very important for. So these are all the things that I already know. So I tell you those things because I want to move from the conversation being about everything that we don't like about the school district to a conversation about what's possible. What do we want the future to look like? What kind of education do we want for our children? That gives me good information to work with to develop a plan. All right? So let's get ready for our first thought exchange. So our first thought is going to be in response to this question. As you imagine the El Paso ISD of the future, what do you envision is possible for our students? What do we want for the future of our children? So you all have a placemat at your seats, and you've got 2 QR codes. I want you to look at the QR code 470-289-822. That is the QR code that you need to access to respond to the first question. Those of you who are in the gallery, get your phones out. You can go to tjoin.com, type in that QR code so that you can engage with us in this conversation. Those of you who are listening at home, again, go to tjoin.com, type in the QR code, and let's get rolling with sharing our thoughts. If you need help, please raise your hand and we'll help you get into the system. And remember, you can submit thoughts in English and in Spanish. There's a drop-down menu for you to be able to submit your thoughts in Spanish. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Gustavo. Can you find out where our students are? Because I know we had 2 students here that want, so we may not have, we need to make sure we have students at these tables. Oh. Mr. Warnicki, can I have you help this gentleman right here get into the QR code? Right. Mm-hmm. This is a great venue. Yeah. Great. Okay, we only have 17 thoughts generated. There's a lot of people here. You can generate more than 1 thought. You need to go in and read the thoughts and rate them as well. And if you need technology, please raise your hand and we'll get you a tablet. Yes, absolutely. I can get you a tablet. Yes, we want to hear your thoughts. Yeah. We want them in there.
We'll get you in there.
Mm-hmm. Vince, I need a tablet for... Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sylvia, is that one?
Are you getting one?
Sarah. Yeah. You can use your phone as well. Okay, put in your thoughts, read others' thoughts, and rate them. We need to rate the thoughts as well. We also have Chick-fil-A at the table, so please eat your dinner while you work. Because I know I'm asking you to think real hard. Okay, we have 80 thoughts generated, but I don't see a lot of ratings, so we're trying to hit a ratio of 20 or above. We're only at 8 right now, so please go in and read the thoughts and rate them. Do you have a phone, young man, or you? Okay, good. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a way to comment on a thought that I'm rating? You know, like to ask for
No,
more?
but you could add
You
a
could
thought
add a
that,
thought
yeah,
okay.
that contributes to that. You can rate it and then add an
Okay.
additional thought that
Okay.
kind of extends that.
Right.
Mhm. No, thanks. Keep going in and reading the thoughts and rating them. We still need to get to a ratio of 20 or higher, and we're not there yet. So please go in and read the thoughts and rate them. I know I'm asking you to work real hard this evening. Same thing for those of you in the gallery and those of you who are at home. Okay, you have about 5 more minutes. Go in and read those thoughts and keep rating them. Keep going in and rating those thoughts. You have about 1.5 minutes left. Okay, you have about 1 more minute. Okay, you have about 30 seconds. Okay, about 10 more seconds. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, we've gotten through our first thought exchange. Thank you so much for putting on your thinking caps, and I know that I made you work really hard, but I appreciate it. So let me kind of share, as you all were working on entering your thoughts and rating those, I was scrolling through to look at what some of the thoughts were that were being generated. So obviously, some thoughts that were generated, and I'm going to summarize some of these, that we want our students to be problem solvers. We want our kids to have more than one language when they graduate, from our schools. We want an education where the whole child is considered, not necessarily just their academic needs, right? There were several statements that talked about counselors and social emotional learning and making sure that we had enough supports for our students. So those were a lot of the thoughts that you generated. So if you click out of that so I can see that. So if you look at the screen, we had 126 participants that shared a thought. We had 147 thoughts. We had over 4,000 ratings at a ratio of 27. All right, so that's how you read the screen. And then here are some of the thoughts that bubbled to the top. So now's the time for you to have a short discussion at your table. What were some of the thoughts that were generated? Did you agree with some of those things? Have a discussion at your table about the things that were generated by the group in terms of what we want the future of El Paso ISD to be and what's possible for our students. I'm going to give you a few minutes to have a discussion at your table. can you put the timer on for me? So have a good, healthy discussion at your table so that multiple stakeholders can join the conversation. Right, you have 2 more minutes for your discussion, and again, make sure that you give several an opportunity to join in the discussion at the table. It's important, especially, to listen to the students at the table and give them a voice in the discussion. Can y'all fix the screen? There, thanks. All right, you have about a minute left to discuss. Thirty seconds. All right, we have about 10 more seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let me bring you all back together. Where are my students in the house? I want all my students to stand up. Stand up, push in your chair. Don't be shy. Let's give our students a round of applause. All right, when we started this conversation, I said as a superintendent and the board as well, it's very important for us to understand from the student perspective what you want for your future and for the future of your education. So your voice, above all, is one of the most important voices for us to listen to. So I'm going to be calling on 4 of you to share with me what were some of the conversations that you all had at your table about what's possible for the future of El Paso ISD. Who wants to be the courageous first student? And I want elementary, middle, and high school students, so don't think you're gonna think that the high school students have to carry all the weight. All right, who wants to be the first? Okay, we've got one right over here, and then you're next.
All right, thank you.
Carly, you wanna give her the microphone? She'll
So
be next.
when we were sitting down and discussing, one thing I noticed is that most people seem to want to focus on things that come later in school, such as college, high school years, and stuff like that. But personally, I think that we should mostly focus on what happens after school. What I would go with personally is things like financials, you know, how to properly spend money or save it, how to pay taxes, how to get a job that you're completely qualified for. Things like that would be a lot more helpful to the students and the future generations, because we can't get our students ready for things that aren't going to be that useful. Like, I think everybody knows it. I'm sorry to all the math teachers, but algebra, like, come on, am I like,
Right.
when am I gonna use that, right? No, but
Well, you're going to use it a lot, but if we're not doing a good job of connecting why algebra is important, then that's something that we need to work on, right? Yes.
But 100%, I think we should go full in on what happens after school, and most importantly, financials, because, well, sorry, I kind of lost it. I got a
No,
little
that's
scared
okay.
there.
So let me help you summarize, okay?
No, it was-
Go ahead.
yeah. But unemployment rates, stuff like that, is going up with every new generation, stuff like that. And a big part of that is because a lot of newer generations don't know what to do when they get out of school. And, as a student, and for us, when we have our own kids, that's the last thing we want, is to be unemployed or broke or something like that. So it'd be best to just fully go in on what we can do to prepare ourselves fully out of school.
Well, thank you so much. Can you tell us your name and what school you're with again?
Anthony Macias. I'm with Henderson Middle School.
Well, thank you, Anthony. Let's give him a round of applause. So, thank you, Anthony. So couple of summary statements here. Number one, that's the kind of communication skills that we want our students to graduate with. So, very good. His level of confidence and his comfort with the microphone was remarkable. And as a middle school student, I applaud you. So thank you. So when I talk about learner profiles, these are some of the things that we want to be thinking about. So communication is a big after school type of thing. When you graduate and you have great written and verbal communication skills, you're going to be successful. But I think he also said something that I saw on several of the comments, and that is financial literacy. Because absolutely, we want to kind of help our students understand, the value of a dollar and how to operate and a budget and live within their means. So thank you so much for sharing your comments. I want to hear from 3 more students. This young lady right here.
Hi, my name is Raven Macias, and I'm from Silva. So our discussion was about security, both emotional and physical security. We feel that in schools it's very important to have a safe campus where everybody who's on campus is supposed to be on campus, and that nobody who isn't supposed to be on campus has the opportunity to come onto campus. And when we talked about emotional security, it was about having teachers and staff that are there for us, who can talk to us about what we may be going through and who can truly empathize with us and any struggles that we may be facing.
Well, thank you so much. And let's give her a round of applause too. And this isn't the first feeder pattern that is shared, that whole child education is really important. When I go to visit students and I go into classrooms and I ask them about what they value in their schools, sometimes not sometimes, all of the time, they tell me that they want to learn in a safe learning space. They want an environment that's empathetic, caring, compassionate. They want teachers who they have a good, positive relationship with, and that teachers who challenge them and teachers who understand them and, can build them up when they're having a bad day. So absolutely, we need to create a culture of learning that really honors the student as a person before they honor them as a student in their classroom, right? So thank you so much for those comments. And security was the other thing that she said. Absolutely, security is a big thing weighing heavy on parents' minds. So if we can add additional security, that would be optimal. All right, 2 more. I've heard from 2 high school students, no, a middle school and a high school. I need an elementary student. Who's going to be my brave elementary student? Who wants to speak? Do you want to say something? No? Who's elementary? How about you? You want to share something? Are you sure? Even if I stand right here and help you? Come on. You don't want to do it? All right. I'm not going to make you do it. All right. How about you, young lady? Will you share something with us?
Give it a shot.
Give it a shot. I'll help you. Go ahead. Yes, give her a round of applause. What is something they talked about at your table?
Testing.
Testing? Okay, what did they say about testing?
That it's really stressful for us students.
Okay, so
because
go ahead.
sometimes we don't have enough time to prepare.
Okay, so
And,
testing causes a lot of anxiety for students, right? So we know that testing's important, but we probably should reduce the amount of testing that we have, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, listen, she deserves a big round of applause. That was really courageous. Thank you so much. And tell us your name and what school you're from.
Maribel Martinez from Henderson Middle School.
Thank you, thank you. All right. One more student. One more student. One more. Any takers? Man, y'all are shy. Oh, right over here. Awesome. My brave young women. All right, Anna, where are you from?
I'm from Jefferson.
Okay, wonderful. What can you share with us?
We were talking, my Tipo and I were talking about how, like, we're agreeing with them about testing.
Uh-huh.
There's so much testing that we don't have enough time for ourselves,
Uh-huh.
and our brains can't take so much,
Uh-huh.
and we won't focus on other things that we may have to do, like extracurricular activities, and how we should reduce the amount of tests, and how tests don't define who you are and how you do academically.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I think that there's more to education than assessment and gathering evidence of student learning. We really have to have high tier 1 instruction, and then, you know, work with students to see where they are along the learning continuum. So thank you so much. Let's give our students another round of applause. It's not easy. Y'all can sit down now and take a deep breath. All right? All right, I want to hear from my teachers. So teachers, let's stand up and let's hear from you. Teachers, stand up. Come on. I know you're not shy. Teachers, teachers, teachers. All right, I want to hear from 3 of my teachers. What were some of the discussions that you all had at your tables? Right here. All right.
So I'm Ruth Arzola from Zavala Elementary. In our table, we were discussing motivating our students. Sometimes they are afraid to take risks. And so we are there to remind them that it's okay to take a risk. And so that's what we were discussing, just to motivate our students.
Absolutely. And let me share with you something that's really profound and important about what she just said. Students taking risks. That's critical. And when students take risks, and students listen up, you might fail. But you know what? Failure is not a bad thing. A lot of times we learn the most valuable lessons through failure. So if you're failing forward, that's a good thing. So never be afraid of taking a risk and experiencing failure. Listen, I am all about being bold and courageous, and I know as I'm trying to be bold and courageous, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes and I'm going to fail along the way. But if I learn from those mistakes, then I'm all the better for it. So absolutely, very important environment and culture for us to create for our students. 2 more teachers. Right here? All right. Uh-huh.
Basically, anxiety and depression are off the roof with our kids right now. Me personally, I had an experience with one of my daughters, very depressed after COVID, during COVID. Luckily, my wife and I had a great support system that we were able to get her through that. A lot of our kids don't have that support system, and we're seeing that after COVID, or even right now during COVID. Kids just need more support from teachers, being empathetic with the kids, knowing what they've been through.
Absolutely. That is very, very important. I think that we've all been through trauma. Give him a round of applause. We've all been through trauma, you know, with this pandemic. And specifically, you know, our teachers have been through trauma as well. But our students are carrying really heavy loads in terms of their anxiety, their fears, their mental health. And so as schools, again, this is where we have to leverage our community assets to make sure that we can provide those necessary supports to support our children with mental health. We have to remove the stigma that, you know, that mental health is something that's a bad thing, right? Because it's not. I mean, there's many of us who suffer from anxiety or from depression at some point in our lives, right? So mental health supports are absolutely critical. One more teacher. Yes, right here.
Hello, everyone. So I did notice a comment on there, the difference between the West Side schools and the schools here. I know many teachers have probably done, taught at schools there on the West Side and schools on this side, and I've experienced it. I've noticed a big difference in the technology, the schools, everything that this side of the town, has versus what the West Side has, and it's a big difference. And I feel like the side of the town specifically should be rewarded that, because if the West Side is rewarded that, our students on this side should be rewarded that as well.
So equity is something that we have to address. Thank you so much. Yes. And absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there are equity gaps that we need to bridge in our school districts. That was a question that came from one of my students when I came here to visit Jefferson Silva this afternoon. I had a bunch of our leadership students here in this very venue, and I asked them to ask me questions. And they asked me, what are we gonna do about the inequities in the school district? And so it's not a one size fits all. It's not gonna be a silver bullet that we're gonna be able to, but it's gonna take a multitude of things for us to address that equity gap. One of the big things I said is, we've got to modernize our facilities, and that's going to be a long-term fix that we're going to have to, entertain possibly the passage of additional bonds so that we can, create facilities in 21st century learning spaces. But it's also about prioritizing our investments to make sure that all of our students, regardless of what school they go to, have adequate resources to meet their educational needs. So thank you so much for that, and that is absolutely work that we need to do as a school district. Teachers, have a seat. Round of applause for our teachers. Okay, so hang with me. We're getting to the finish line, but I'm gonna have to have you think just a little bit more. All right, so now that we've entertained thoughts about what we want for the future of El Paso ISD, what's possible for our students. This next question and this next thought exchange is more about what do we need to do? What actions do we need to take to make that future a reality? What things do we need to address? All right, so what are some things we need to address to make those possibilities, that future, a reality? You're gonna go into a different QR code this time. At your placemat, there's a second QR code. Those of you in the gallery, get your phones out, type in the new QR code. Those of you who are listening at home, tjoin.com, type in the new QR code. Submit your thoughts, read the thoughts, and rate the thoughts. Alice, are you still in the house? We need some help right here. We need help they're having trouble using the QR code to get in. I think she needs help right here. She's the one. And remember, you can eat while you work. You've got some Chick-fil-A boxes at your tables. You need help? Okay. As soon as she finishes with her, I'll have her come right over here. They need help right over here. This John and Sarah. Can you scroll up, Gustavo, so I can see? Keep scrolling up. Can you stop? Hey guys, you need to go in and read the thoughts and rate them. have about 3 minutes. That one, wait. You have about 2 more minutes. One more minute. Okay, you have about 30 seconds. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's come back together. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to discuss, but as you all were inputting your thoughts, I was scrolling through and looking at that. Some things that are bubbling to the top that I noticed were obviously, compensation. That's something that I talked about early on. And please know that the board and myself as the superintendent are committed to developing a budget that honors our employees and addresses compensation. So please know that we're committed to doing that. We have a board workshop on Tuesday, May the 3rd. So I invite you to watch via live stream or join us in the boardroom so that you can hear where we are in the budget development process. So employee compensation is something that came up quite a bit. Trust, we talked about that at the beginning. I know that as a superintendent and together with the board, it's going to be important for us to develop a level of trust within the organization and together with the community. I also saw a comment about the partnership that's so important between families, the school, and the community, all of us working together. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to discuss at your table. So what are some of the things that you all noticed in some of the comments? Have a discussion at your table, and then we'll share out with a few other stakeholders. And remember, we're talking about what actions do we need to take, what do we need to do to make the future a reality? So whether it's That is terrible. I'm so sorry that the sun is hitting you. You might want to move right over here.
There you go.
Okay, there you go. If you have sunglasses, you might want to put them on just about now. Can you put the timer on? You have about a minute? You have about 30 seconds. 30 seconds. So I'm so sorry that the sun is it's killing me. Sorry. Ten seconds. All right, and 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, my parents in the house, I need you to stand up. Parents, 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 stand up. All right, let's give our parents a round of applause. Parents, round of applause. All right. Yes, I know. I'm squinting too. I'm sorry. This is the first time we use this facility, so obviously there's some sunlight issues that we need to address. But all right, parents, I know that you're a big part of the educational process of our children. So as you think about some of the actions that we need to take to make the future that we just talked about a reality, what are some of the things that you all discussed at your tables? Right over here.
My name is Imelda Lemos, and I'm a parent at Zavala Elementary School. We talked about equity, of course, and I speak mostly for my school, Zavala Elementary, and being able to get our schools modernized technology, materials, tools, resources. And then we did talk about our school, you know, them deciding if it was going to stay open or not open. And I said, regardless if it is or not, we still have students to serve, and we still need to be able to serve them with as much as everybody else.
Right, absolutely. So equity remains a challenge that we need to overcome as a school district. I would absolutely agree. I actually visited your school today, and I will tell you that there was a lot of impressive instruction that I saw in the classrooms at Zavala. But I also noticed that the school is not necessarily modern. It's aging. But I'll tell you, I enjoyed the young lady singing to me. I enjoyed walking into kinder and first grade classrooms. I enjoyed visiting with the librarian, so you all are doing a remarkable job there. But we absolutely have equity issues that we need to address in terms of equipping our campuses with the resources that they need to educate our children. Who else wants to share? Right over here, I have somebody, and then somebody here in the middle.
I'd like to start off by saying that I'm not wearing the sunglasses just to look cool. The sun is in my eyes.
But you look cool, by the way.
But our conversation was around paying teachers, but paying teachers that are qualified, paying their worth. Because, and how do we do that? How is that addressed? I mean, by evaluations and accountability. Because if we're not following up, or administration or what have you is not following up with teachers and how they teach, then they get set in their ways. And does the way they teach, is their pay enough for how they're teaching? Are they good teachers? Are they not? Do they need, and that, I mean, it's just paying somebody for what they're really doing. And we need good teachers. We have, if they want good pay, and just that goes with everything, any job. You're a good employee, then your salary should match that.
Absolutely. So thank you for your comments. Let's give her a round of applause. Compensation is complicated, but that's absolutely something that when we think about long-term things that we need to do, that's absolutely something that, we need to look at possibly. But I think that there's more that goes into delivering instruction than just compensation. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're competitive and that our pay structure is keeping pace, especially in El Paso County. I think our teachers would also appreciate a lot of professional learning support so that if they need to address instruction in a different way, that they're equipped to meet the expectations that are out there in terms of educating our children. So thank you so much for that comment. One more comment from a parent. Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Okay. I'm Maria Elena Gordon, Coronado High School and Franklin Feeder Pattern. My son went to both of those, and then I took him out and I homeschooled him. I think that in order for this district to be a success, even though we have so many magnet programs, we need to stop the weed out system that is in place, the pipeline to prison, where teachers are made to cram subjects and are made to perform at optimum levels. Without a sustainable rate of learning, students suffer. Also, the class sizes. We need more teachers. We need to lower the class size. There are some that are just overburdened, and we want these teachers to perform miracles. We ask a lot out of the teachers. Students can only do so much. Teachers can only do so much. Yes, there are high-functioning students, but in order for this to work, we really have to limit class sizes. We have the budget. We pay a lot on taxes. Taxes are going up. They're going to put another bond, millions of dollars in debt. We have 20 more years to go with this $680 or $68 million bond that we took out. There's going to be another one in place. We're paying for our children's education. We want the best for them. But we also have to be fair and look at those classrooms. What is happening in those classrooms? Talk to the teachers and get their needs met. We cannot lose our educators. They are gold.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's give her a round of applause. Absolutely. One of the things that I addressed, of things that I already know, are specific to class size. That's something that came up in the pre-listening session responses and the questions. And when we think about class size, we need to look at our secondary teachers and think about what is their student load. So when we think about student load, 150 to 180 is pretty manageable, but anything over 180 is way over a student load, because that then makes it very difficult for a teacher to grade papers, to plan their lessons, to communicate with parents, to do the tutoring that they need to do after school to meet the needs of their students. So student load is really important. And when we think about elementary class sizes, we want them to be manageable so our teachers can give our students individual attention and they can provide them feedback. So we appreciate your comments. Absolutely, class size is something that we need to think about. All right, one more parent comment. Yes, right here. And then we're gonna get community members, so get ready.
Hi, my name's Lori Sandoval, and I'm a parent. What we were talking about, sorry, I don't like speaking in public. What we were talking about is having teachers and counselors in the school have more of that open communication with the students and adapting with changes, especially that COVID, we're coming out of it, that a lot of our students are not knowing how to cope with that anxiety, the depression, the things that are going on at home, especially at school. A lot of them are getting that door shut that, you know what, we're just here for work, that's it. Some are getting teachers that are being able, okay, what's going on? What can I do to help you? What can we do to success? We don't have that. Everybody's just, it's split.
Right.
And also with counselors, they don't have that opportunity to go talk to the counselor. It's just in and out, let's go.
Right.
No time, you need to go to class.
Right. So when we think about social emotional supports, I think about it in this way. Thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause too. Parents, you all can have a seat. You know, we need to be thinking about these social emotional supports for students in what I call a multi-tiered system of support, right? You have your foundational support, and a counselor might be able to help a child with, you know, some level of anxiety, but then you have your tier 2 support. So we may need to have some mental health counselors and some availability for therapy, you know, or leverage our resources for therapy. And then there's level 3. You know, we also need to be thinking about restorative practices. This young lady talked to us about the school to prison pipeline. So when we think about discipline, not necessarily just punitive discipline, but restorative practices where we're shifting the conversation to what's wrong with you to what happened to you. How can I help you? What support do you need so that we can get you on your way and get you back on the path of success? So parents, thank you so much for those insights. All right, community members, please stand up and be recognized. I started off this conversation sharing that we've really got to understand what assets we have in the community so that we can leverage those assets to really contribute to the, you know, educational process of our children. So what are some of the things that you all talked about at your tables in terms of actions that we need to take to make this future a reality? Right here.
At our table, we're talking about parent involvement. We're seeing a lot of parent involvement in the elementary. You see a lot of it, but when it comes to middle school, high school, when they're going through puberty, when they're going through changes, there's hardly any support there, you know, because as a former teacher, you get all the parents that visit during conference, you know, when they're parent-teacher conference, whatever it is, and it's all the best students. We don't need those. We need the ones that are failing, that need the help, and we hardly get that.
Okay, so I think that we talked about the importance of a partnership between the school, the parents, and the community. So one of the thoughts that I saw was communication, and so communication sometimes is a barrier, but really strengthening the partnerships that we have between the parents, the parents and the families, the schools, and the community. All right, I want to hear from 2 more community members. Who else? Right here.
Hi, I'm wearing 2 hats. I'm a parent, I'm a community leader and also a staff member.
Okay.
I currently work at Henderson Middle School, the future Tinajero Pre-K through 8. I am a cafeteria manager. And in regards to parent involvement, education doesn't only happen in the classroom. It starts at home. I know a lot of parents are having a lot of expectations on our behalf in the school environment, but we also need the parent help. And it's not only in the classroom, it also happens in the cafeteria. Like I said, I'm a cafeteria manager, and the manners of some of these students are really, really atrocious. And you know, the way they speak to us, sometimes I wonder, would you speak like that to your mother, to your parent? So yes, you know, community, we also need to have our parents be involved. The community, us also, me as a community, I don't have kids in schools anymore, but I can also help out my neighbor, you know, and let her know, hey, there's going to be this meeting. You also need to get involved. We need to get those parents involved also.
Absolutely. Well, community engagement, and again, being able to leverage our assets, bringing mentors into the school building so that we can model positive behavior for our students, because again, it's about being able to model the behavior that we want to see from our students. Because a lot of times, if we're going to address behavior just with punitive measures, we're not going to be able to change that behavior. We need to model behavior for our students so that we can reinforce the behavior that we want to see. All right, one more community member. Share with us the community, what you represent in the community as well.
So I'm a former parent, and I'm currently a provider in the community. And we had a young person at our table bring up the fact that teachers need support and mental health support. We had a staff member bring up the same subject. So I think it's critical and very important to understand that our children recognize that the adults that they're coming in and dealing with and being part of every day need support and help in order to then provide the support and help to them.
Absolutely, and let's give her a round of applause as well, because, you know, one of the things that I've talked about with my staff quite a bit, and as we think about next year, it really is about this issue of wellness, right? Because we've all been through trauma of some sort. And so for us as adults to be the best that we can be and give the best of ourselves to our students, we have to exercise a level of self-care as well. We have to have a work-life balance, and we have to have supports in the workplace that address that for our adults as well. So thank you so much for those comments. All right, one more stakeholder group, and I'll take 2 comments. Our non-instructional staff, those of you who are not teachers in the classroom, but you're here representing a job role outside of the classroom. If you'll stand up and be recognized, I'd like to have at least 2 comments from you guys. All right, who wants to volunteer? Would you like to volunteer? Yes, and then I'll have one more.
Hi, Nelly Garcia, Cooley Elementary. I'm the secretary to the principal there. We are trying to provide technology, the latest technology, to our teachers. They really need it in the classroom. And I feel that a lot of our efforts get stuck elsewhere. And we ask for help, and we're not getting the help that we need. So then for me to turn around and answer to our staff when they need something, and I'm trying my best to get it for them and for the students, we really need that help, because they do deserve to have the latest technology and the latest materials to work with.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that information with us, because we also need to look at what systems do we have in place, what barriers can we remove so that we can be efficient and make sure that even our adults and our teachers have the resources that they need. Thank you very much. One more, right over here. Yes,
Okay, there I go again. My name is Rosa Briones, and I guess I know a lot of people here. I'm a parent. I'm a parent liaison.
Oh, good.
And I'm also from the community.
Yes.
Okay, so my first thing is that we need more loving and caring to our children. We need more teaching to our staff to know how to understand our children.
Right.
Okay, especially when we have children, and I'm going to speak that for myself. My daughter's here at Jefferson, and I truly believe that our 504s or our special needs, they need more attention. I'm not saying better attention than the rest of the kids, but they do need more attention. And all the staff, their teaching staff, they need to know who's under their 504s or any special needs.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's give her a round of applause. You know, and what I would summarize as we wrap up, y'all can sit down because we're about to wrap up this evening. I want to thank you all, first of all, for really sharing your thoughts with me and for working hard this evening, because I know I made you think really deeply. I also want to thank those of you who were courageous enough to stand up and share your thoughts and the thoughts of those at your table. And I think that one way for us to kind of wrap up the thoughts that we've generated this evening in thinking about the future of our school district and the actions that we need to take, we need to have a culture, a culture that's very student-driven, a student-first attitude. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you all take this water for me so I can? Thank you so much. These students have been remarkable with me today. I came this afternoon to visit their schools, and they've just done such a wonderful job. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your leadership, because leadership matters and leadership is important. Thank you so much. But as I said, an organization that really puts our students first, because as I said, students are our customers. They're the reason why we exist, and we exist to serve them. So thank you so much for that comment. So what are we going to do next? What are the next steps after this initial conversation? Well, if you remember when I opened the session this afternoon, I shared with you that we're going to compile all of this information that we're generating from each one of these hopes and dreams listening tours. And I'm going to share it with the board. So I'm working with the board on team building, and we're going to be visioning for the school district, right? So this information is going to inform that discussion. I have a meeting with the board on Friday afternoon and on Saturday morning. I'm going to be sharing with them some information that we've generated thus far through these hopes and dreams listening sessions. And like I said, from that, we'll begin to develop our directional documents. We'll start generating our mission. Why do we exist? Our vision. What do we hope to become? Our core beliefs and commitments, goals, and then our strategic plan. But this is the first conversation. I'm going to come back to you with that information, and you all are going to help me determine whether did we meet the target. If we've written this mission, does that really reflect where we want to be in the future? If we look at goals, are these the goals that are really going to get us where we need to go? And then as we begin to develop metrics, strategies, and progress monitoring systems, I'm going to come back to you so that we can show you what progress we're making, right? So again, we said that this was a community visioning process, so this is the first of many conversations that we'll have. So those of you who are here at the tables, I'm probably going to ask you to come back again so that we can continue this conversation. I welcome those of you in the gallery to continue to come back and be engaged in the conversation. Those of you who are live streaming from home, we will do the same thing every time that we come together. So I appreciate your time this evening. I thank you very much for the thoughts. This, like I said, is the first of many conversations that we'll have. And I want to leave you with this thought. The only way to control the future is to create it. And tonight's conversation was the first step in creating a bright future for El Paso ISD and for the students and the families that we service. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Just a few thank yous to my staff, those of you who have been part of all of the technology that we've used today, the sound system, and I want you all to stand and be recognized, my community engagement staff. If you remember, I shared with you that I asked the principals to do two things: guarantee the attendance of their stakeholders and to be here to listen and learn. So I want the principals of the schools in the Jefferson Silva feeder pattern to stand and be recognized. Thank you so much for the hard work that you do. I know I also have the executive cabinet in the house, as well as several central office members, so if you all would stand and be recognized. Again, it takes us all working together. And again, so thank you all so much for your time this evening. I look forward to more conversations with you in the future. Have a great evening. If you use technology, just leave it at the table and we'll collect it. What time is it?
It is 7:07.